Boom shakalaka. All right, so I totally forgot about this topic today, but I'm glad you remembered it because there's a lot of things I want to talk about, and actually, some of this topic. Well, this topic has come up a lot this week, and I wasn't even thinking about it. Honestly, I forgot we were going to talk about this. Um,
Oh, that's fun.
how much more vague can I be without actually saying what we're talking about?
What are we talking about, Mike?
I believe we just wanted to riff on some ideas about the future of fitness and things that we think may happen so that way we can be Nostradamus in about 10 to 20 years maybe.
All right.
I don't know what the
Perfect.
time frame is. We were just noticing some things. I remember us talking about it on chat and then we were like we should do a podcast about this.
Yeah, I think you should just whatever you talk about, just choose your own timeline and
Yes.
you we could speculate on like 200 or 500 years, but I was definitely in my mind I was kind of thinking like every you we could talk about every 5 to 10 years or something like that.
Okay, okay, okay. Did you put this into Chat GPT at all, by the way? Like sometimes I'll put topics in, but I didn't put this in.
I haven't. So my setup is a little different. I've always had two screens
Mhm.
and I only have one screen.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so I don't have any notes or I don't have ChatGPT up in front of me.
Wow.
So
Feel naked a little bit.
uh so ChatGPT is almost like notes. Like I think some people think it's cheating, but
Right.
it's more of like you could put in your ideas and be like create an outline for me and
Yeah,
then
most of it's outlines that I really like with our podcast and whatnot.
yeah, exactly. Which I think is pretty cool. And which got me to think about a little bit. We had a conversation about like asking ChatGPT to describe yourself. And
Yes.
and
Okay.
I wondered how much of that was just like all the thoughts from the podcast that like I just put in and like say create an outline and then like it spit all these like things out. Uh and so it's like it's more of like a presentation of thoughts than more of like your thoughts kind of thing. It's just like it's kind of a cool thing to use AI with that. Because
So I feel like we should outline that a little bit. Speaking of, so we were talking about using the prompt of tell me about myself or who am I? I think the prompt was who am I?
who am I?
Yes. So you ask ChatGPT or whatever AI that you've been, I would say the one you've been using the most often because it's accruing data about you over time. and you ask it, who am I? And then it spits out a summary based on your interactions with it.
Right.
And it gives it a little bit of a tone that feels conversational, I would say. Right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was kind of a fun little thing.
Yeah, it feels like it's buttering you up a little bit, honestly. And I asked it if it's buttering me up, and it's like, "No, I'm being completely honest. You have done these things, and you've been doing so well, and you show an urge to blah, blah."
It depends on how you interact with it too. Because I had a few friends do it, and they're like, "I've only asked it how to fix my car," and like so it would spit out things like you know everything about cars, or like you are interested in cars, and like things like that. So it's definitely interesting. And I don't know why we're getting on this topic, but we should probably talk about today's topic, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, it's gonna be AI heavy, right?
Yeah,
I think.
true.
I think that's I was thinking this might be a good segue actually. Because one of the reasons why I thought of this was playing with AI, but then I had a group class recently,
Hmm.
and in the group class, there was someone I hadn't seen in a while, but she was doing pretty good, and she got onto a good routine, and she's been going for about 3 months on this routine, I believe.
Hmm.
And she asked Chat GPT after she went to a conference, which her field you wouldn't think, it's like realty kind of. You wouldn't think a lot of AI would be used for realty. I don't know. I mean, I can think of a whole bunch of reasons because I know about AI, but people who don't know about AI, you don't think realty is going to be big in AI, right?
Right.
She went to a realty conference, and there was a large portion of it about how to use AI, and then she learned how to use AI a little enough. Like it doesn't take a lot really, but she got comfortable with it. It's probably the most accurate thing that happened there. And she asked a AI for a workout program for herself and a nutrition plan and a grocery list.
Oh,
But that
very awesome.
nutrition plan, yeah, and she's been following the grocery list and the nutrition plan and the workout plan basically. And it's just simple, a simple workout. There's not any warm up, there's not any cool down, there's not anything like super individualized to her at all. But like just a basic routine, that's stood the test of time type thing. And it
Yeah.
kind of goes with what we were talking about before when you said, oh, what did you say? Said how it was something about like how long is it until people just start using just AI all the time for
Right.
the for health and fitness and whatnot. And I feel
Yeah.
like you said that in a previous podcast, and then I had her show up in my group class afterwards and telling me this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's coming.
Yeah, it's very interesting because if you prompt it correctly, like you can make sure it's gathering its data from, say, like physical therapists and things like that. And one thing that, and like this is, I'm not saying go out and do this, right? Because, and I'm sure ChatGPT probably puts like a disclaimer in there too that says like consult a doctor before
Yeah,
doing this,
yeah,
right?
right. Who's consulting Chat GPT, the pro medical version?
Right. Exactly. Like so I think that if you put in the correct prompt, you can get really good information even with previous injuries.
Hmm.
And it's going to only get better, and I think we could speculate on the next like 10 years, I think would be a good starting point
Hmm.
for this episode. So,
Okay.
do you have anything to speculate, or are you ready?
I think the younger generation is going to use it a lot for their fitness needs.
Okay.
I think the older generation, not so much,
Okay.
which is kind of obvious, new technology, younger generation, early adopters, older generation, late adopters, right?
Yep.
So we're going to have a giant population of retirees, and that's going to be like a big portion of the population for about 10 to 20 years, maybe 30. But
Okay.
more so like occupying that space for about 10 to 20 years. So I still
What the,
think there's going to be a large amount of the population not doing it. But I think the younger ones will figure it out within 10 years. And then it makes me wonder, like, I do feel like fitness is cool with the younger generation right now,
mhm.
right? Have we talked about that?
Well, I mean, if you go to a gym right now at 5 p.m., there's tons of teenagers and the younger crowd, and I do think that even my young daughter she's in second grade, she knows really awesome exercises, and exercises that people never did 15, 20 years ago that you would only see a personal trainer doing. Now she's doing it in second grade.
Right,
So I can only imagine by the time she's 10, 15, how if she continues down the road just at school, how knowledgeable she's going to be, and then adding in all of the AI stuff
right.
on top of that. So we're talking 2035 or so when she goes into, when she's in high school.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to be a very special time for, well, if the world is still around, right? No, I'm just kidding. It's not Terminator yet.
Yeah. No,
But
but we were talking about robots coming on around the time our kids are in college.
yeah,
Humanoid robots being more
yeah.
common.
So this is how I imagine a really, really nice school's gym class, like in 10 years.
Okay.
Um, so one thing right now that's becoming sort of popular is like haptic feedback.
Mhm.
And so I think that kids, like say like at a university level, like where they have the top stuff in the world, can wear the like these suits that are giving instant feedback. And so and it could even be in front of a squat rack, and there is an AI in that squat rack that is talking to them. Uh, and then also then you would be the coach, right? So you would be Coach Mike, and you'd be in there, but everyone's using
There'd be
their
like an administrator type of coach, more of an administrator type of coach than a person to person type of coach. Yeah.
Well, just think if the AI picks up on a squat, like either with the through the suit, or just using video
Hmm.
and just analyzing the what is it, the kinesthetics of like the squat and everything.
Right. The
And then
mechanics.
yeah, the mechanics, yeah, that's a better word. And then gives instant feedback, like so says, hey, your right glute wasn't firing properly on that warm up. Why don't you go do a couple single leg RDLs to try and get that glute firing?
Go to
And then,
station two. I feel like they're going to be like, go to station two. Station
right,
two, single leg RDL.
yeah, or something like that. Or like that's what you need today, as a prerequisite before your squat is to pass this test. And then you as the coach could come over then to that squat rack, or that student that you're coaching, and then actually kind of talk them through it. But even though I don't think you need that, but still with the personalized coach touch, I think is important.
I think the only thing that like a personalized coach touch is going to be the most useful for then is like the psychology of the positions. You know how sometimes people will get into positions that they can do, but they have a mental hang up around.
Are you right? Right?
So like they can look like they're doing it correctly. Like if we're using a camera, you can it can look like it's doing it correctly on the camera, but what's happening is not what needs to happen.
Right, right, exactly.
You following?
Oh yeah, I understand. Like and you as the coach need to be able to kind of talk them through that, even though I think AI is going to be capable of doing that in
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah. It's just recognizing, I would say just recognizing the psychological hangups, I think would be the only thing AI might not be able to do in 10
All
years.
right. Okay, I like this because this is what about in 20 or 30 years? Okay.
20 or 30 years, it depends on how much we get into like mental health, I think. Um,
Well,
I think it depends on how much AI starts mentally counseling people.
What about if let's get leave AI a little bit, but I think it's always going to be there, right?
Hmm.
Um, but what so in 20 or 30 years, and you were talking about where a coach would need to be there to like kind of tell you the right signals in certain ways, like the proper feedback. And now what if something like Neuralink, which isn't very advanced right now, right? But let's think like kind of like the Matrix type
Hmm.
thing, but not too advanced, right? So you would just be able to connect the CNS better. So maybe Neuralink just kind of energizes your whole like kind of nervous system, right? So that it's firing properly. So then you would be able to kind of automatically say if your right glute needs a little bit more,
Hmm.
then you're connected to like your nervous system already, and it should be able to spark that a little bit in the ways that a coach would kind of try and psychologically hype you up. But
And it
now,
might be able to do it better if it can analyze like maybe like sometimes it's in their head because they like of a tightness on another side, So like say I'm doing a single leg exercise with my left leg, but my
yeah,
right hip is tight and I can't get that left hip into position without focusing really hard. So
right,
maybe I've had an injury in the past where I've hurt myself in that position.
yep.
And that all goes into getting that move down correctly.
Right.
So like you'd have to have an intervention from the AI that recognizes that in relation to the rest of their body. So it has to be taking data on the rest of their body.
Okay. Okay.
And then it has to
Let's
know
speculate on this.
their mental history and injury history
Okay.
combined
Okay.
to get to
And
convince them to go into the most effective patterns. Maybe if it can't convince them, it'll get them to go into a less effective pattern, but maybe it would be more effective overall because at least they're doing something.
right. So this is 2055 we're talking about right now.
Mhm.
And do you think at this point that so right now we have wearables like our, our Fitbits and things like that. So maybe, in 30 years when you're born, you get injected with something that keeps track of your vitals, even though I know half the world will be like, "No, this is gonna this is gonna change everything."
Yeah, I don't even think you need something in you, honestly. Like, I think, like, if we think, could we make this happen today with all the resources? You know, I
Mhm.
think we can make it happen today with all the resources.
Yeah.
Like, I think we could monitor and observe someone enough. Just like this goes back to our first question. There you go. Look, it relates. Like where you can ask AI, "Who am I?"
Yeah.
and it can give you a really accurate description. I think the biggest hurdle with that is just the legal hurdle.
Right.
It's just the health data being used for you and then being extrapolated onto the cloud and analyzed and then sent back. You know,
I would be curious. I bet 20, at least 20% of the population would opt into that if that was created, I think right now.
right?
Where like if you were born and you were just automatically hooked into this sensor or however it is, either internal or external,
Well, you
and
could
you
just put
just
like a watch type monitor. You could put external monitors on them and have some kind of camera set up, high caliber camera set up. You know,
yeah.
where you track their movements and you track their behaviors, and a microphone nearby or something like that, or clothing with microphones in it.
That's crazy. Like the video and the microphone, but like I feel like that would be very illegal for a while.
Right. But
Like
it's
where you couldn't opt into that even you couldn't even opt into that, right?
the
Like
legal barrier is the biggest thing. But imagine in about 30 years, it's a slow climb to that
mm,
point in 30 years. But 30 years is 30 years from now, you know? How many
yeah,
things are being
so
observed right now compared to 30 years ago, about you? How much data
yeah,
is being accumulated about you right now compared to 30 years ago? And how mad would people be about that 30 years ago?
I was talking to a teacher the other day and he said in high school that people are recording each other just all the time.
Mhm.
Uh and barely getting consent like if you're in a public space and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure of the laws or anything like that, but and I think that plus 30 years from now where everyone is so used to being on video and everything, now I could see that happening, and
Mhm.
then the amount of data that you could have collected with both that but also like your health vitals at all times. Then when you go into places like a gym, you're connected into that system and it knows all of your data, and then all of your past history and all that kind of stuff. It could get pretty scary and pretty easy to get fit. Like, I mean, you could potentially have a very fit human race, but it really does involve this technology, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of like a be careful what you wish for. So
But
uh,
would you even opt in right now? I don't know if I would.
right now, nah. Mm, hmm. If I was guaranteed to not become famous,
Right?
I'd have to be super anonymous. I might
Yeah,
opt in.
I would never do that video or audio stuff that you were talking about, but I think that if I could just wear like I don't know, some kind of Band-Aid or something like that that I could barely notice that just collects my data from right now, like, so I'm 38 or whatever to the rest of my life. I
Hmm.
don't see why that would be horrible. Um, it's not like like something that can be put in me, but I don't even care about that kind of stuff, right? Like what I would want is the data back, and what I would be interested in too is like people I think would be worried about the GPS probably that's in that, but I would love that information, like where I walked to, where I drove, like how often I was in that couch, like
Yeah, exactly,
like
exactly. And I've seen some of those things. It's really crazy when you when they track the people movement throughout their house and the hot
yeah.
spots in their house. Have you seen that?
No.
That is so nuts. It's so nuts. It's so cool to see though. And then like how there was this one guy who gave a TED talk. He did all the tracking and everything, and how like you can see it tells a story of your of that time period, where those
Mhm.
hot spots are. And then he had a child, I think, and then those hot spots changed and whatnot. And then
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fun.
yeah, yeah. So okay, let's go dark for dystopian for a minute, because I feel like all good future predictions have to be dystopian
All right.
in some
Set
way,
it up.
just to warn people, you know.
Set it up. Set
Like we
it up.
don't have 1984 scenarios now, partially because 1984 was written, I feel like, right?
True. You have to
Um,
be aware.
yeah. So like I think that that could get really bad in a couple of small cases, like governments having that control that have interests past your own interest.
Yeah. Like
Um,
universal soldier situation where they start using genetics and changing genetics, because then the future, as long the human race would, it would be a little crazy in 100 years.
okay, so I talked to other people about this, and like I feel like all I have to say is that, and you can think of like 100 different horrible scenarios
Yeah.
really easily, right?
Yeah.
Like you can just say the broad thing and just pew.
Yeah.
Um, and then unless government becomes a lot more like enlightened, maybe because government will get taken over by AI, but or seemingly enlightened in that case. But I think um, the average person would be most concerned about maybe they have some unique health condition or something like that that would be of use. And then because all their data is being tracked, then you got to have a safe way to opt out of that data, basically. I think Apple is really pushing this model, by the way. Like I think it's one of the reasons, or one of the reasons they say they're pushing a very closed system.
Hmm.
Did you hear about Apple getting sued by UK?
No, but
I think
they're always getting sued though.
yeah, true, good point.
Yeah.
But this suit was because the UK company has asked for data from Apple, and Apple wouldn't give it. And in the UK, when they ask for it, you have to give it,
Oh,
basically.
wow.
And yeah, yeah, and then like for example, in most of the world, if the government asks for it, you have to give it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so just think about that when it comes to your personal data, basically, because if you get enough data on someone, and enough is very relative to what you want to do with that data, basically. But the amount of data we're talking about is the kind of information that makes me wonder if fate is real, or free will is real, basically,
Okay.
at that point, because it
Right.
gets extremely predictive, like really quickly. Because every like just think about how hard it is for you to remember everything, and then think about how often you do the same thing each week.
Right.
Unless you're a really sporadic, like 1/10 of 1% kind of person,
Hmm.
you're doing the same thing all the time. And that gets really crazy really fast. Like I would be afraid to be, like I said, like someone famous, for example. That would be the start of the dystopian thing, you know? Like they've been collecting all this data all this time, and then all of a sudden you become famous,
Yeah.
and then you get a call.
Well,
Hey, we're gonna need you to do blankety blank for blank the government uh secret service something.
right.
Whatever that government's name for the secret service is.
One of those three-letter organizations.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Um, so my dystopian thing on along the same lines would just, and it'd be real quick here, is
and then we'll do
just,
Fit Quest.
huh?
And then we'll do
Yeah,
Fit Quest. Okay.
yeah, we could do a quick fit quest.
Okay.
And because it's the same thing as you, except so I think that as people gain more information, it really empowers the individual. And when it empowers the individual, I think that's when societies collapse.
Hmm.
And so having too much data on yourself and on every single little thing like we've been doing over the past 100 years is going to ultimately like lead to the downfall of everything.
I
And
think
that would just be my prediction, but I'm just saying.
what's freaky is like I think 30 years from now is about the time they
That's like
say,
500 years though. I'm saying not
oh,
now.
okay. Well,
Not
I'm
that-
still scared 30 years, dude, because like we get quantum computing and then also scared and excited. Uh, then you have all that data and you're able to look at all these things. And wait, tell me what you just said a second ago so I can get back to it. I
Oh,
lost
okay.
it.
When you're talking about when everybody knows everything,
Hmm.
it empowers the individual, not the society. And so then society is not in control anymore. The individual is, and when that happens, society collapses.
So population
Theoretically.
collapse is supposed to happen within the next 30 years,
Oh, what does that
according
mean?
according to some. So if you look at population data, um, I don't think it's going to be this bad because everybody around this age feels like the world is ending and Chicken Little is happening, you know. But if it did get this bad, the graph, I got my hand going in like a straight line. That's like most of human history, and
Yeah.
then like the last 200 years, it's just started to spike dramatically. Now it's like straight up almost in terms of population.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
Over the past
seven,
since 1800.
right, 7, 8 billion predicted to peak around 10.4 billion, I think is the current projections.
Yeah.
And then the peak, what we're hoping is we go like up and then sustain.
Yeah.
But most populations, when they have that high of a spike, that
Yeah.
long level and then a spike,
Mhm.
that usually means the opposite after the spike.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually like spike super fast and then level off.
Well, what's it comparing it? What's this study comparing to, I wonder?
Like
Because there's no comparison to it.
deer population, lizard population,
Yeah.
mouse population, because
Mhm.
you get a what's called the carrying capacity. You reach carrying capacity
Okay.
for
Does it
the.
have anything to do with like a higher predator taking over too? Like,
It has to do with disease and lack of resources per capita.
okay. Okay. I like it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Crazy. All
Yeah.
right. All right, that's our
So
nonsense made up future fitness podcast. And now we're gonna get to some fit quests. What's been
yes.
going
Yeah. So I went frisbee golfing. You've been golfing. Now I feel
Yeah.
like I have to say golfing because I'm doing frisbee golfing so much.
Yeah.
Golf ball golfing. I've been frothing. We could just call it frothing.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. And now I'm just really tight, so I got the band, and I'm working on chest stretches, and it feels pretty good. And I'm also getting like 10 to 12,000 steps per day, up from like the 7 to 8,000 right now.
Yeah.
So
You
I'm.
told me something interesting about your game though. Like,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
so why did you do right hand, but you also did left hand?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
what
So
was
we've been
that?
talking about non-dominant work, right?
Right, right.
And because I'm so new to disc golfing, it feels like the opportune time to train my left arm to throw the frisbee.
Okay.
Because it's even though it's a frisbee, the disc golf frisbee is different than like a regular like flick of the wrist frisbee that you get used to. It's almost more like a it feels a lot more like a discus, like when I used to throw discus.
Yeah.
Um it was fun. I did some discus throws with it too. Left side I did discus throws too. And it actually felt really good the other day. I was telling you, I got some of my longest drives from my left side the other day.
Yeah.
And we were talking before we started recording about how it, it's one of those things where it feels really mechanical, but in a way, because I'm just learning it, I can lay down a better foundation on my left side
Yeah.
like than I could on my right side because I don't have to unlearn anything on my left side. On my right side, I kind of got to unlearn because like the way I'm used to throwing a frisbee versus a frisbee golf frisbee is different.
Yeah, versus anything, versus a football, versus a baseball,
Yeah, and
like
I'm so used to throwing a whole bunch of different ways on my right side,
yeah.
basically. But my left side, not so much. So I was very surprised. It worked out really well. I think the last time I've been frisbee golfing like once a month on average right now. So
All right. Next time I want to hear rotate left and right arm every shot with a jog and a sprint in between each one. So jog the first throw and then the second throw sprint to it. All
dude, I
right.
got 20,000 steps yesterday. 20,000. My feet are so tired. I'm like standing on a little massage mat right now.
Did you get your heart rate up a couple times at least though?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. All right. Good,
Every
good.
once in a while when I threw it into a horrible area and then I ran towards it, basically.
And you screamed. You're like, no, and like
No.
got your heart rate up.
Yeah, yeah. I got to 160 a couple times, I think. Plus I
Okay.
worked out yesterday as
Oh,
well.
there we go.
Yesterday was a busy day.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
So
cool.
tell me about your golf game you've been working on playing more, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just finished my 10-week program that I started in January. And so now is like quote unquote golf season. And so basically from now until about June-ish, July is like the main season.
Mhm.
And so I'm switching to one workout a week, three cardios, and try and get 3 rounds in every week. You less practicing and more playing now.
So one strength, three cardio, and what did you say?
3 rounds of golf, like
Okay.
go getting actually out on the course instead of like on the putting green and on the range and stuff like that.
Are you doing 9 holes, 18 holes?
Well, I planned on 3 9 holes this week, and two of those ended up being 18.
Okay.
So I might be able to squeeze in all three as 18 holes. We'll see.
Okay, okay. Nice.
It, yeah, so that's about it for me. I mean, I've been eating pretty healthy, been low on the sweets. My diet's good. Staying up with the Huel greens and Huel like meal
Yeah.
replacements. And I've been feeling great with that, man. And I've been making sure I get all those vitamins and everything that come with the Huel greens. And I really, really feel like that has made a pretty big difference. Um, Oh, my cardio it's been a little crazy. I was definitely a little out of shape. Um, so I've been doing so I want to do 30 minutes of intense cardio, but I don't want to run for 30 minutes. So like so what I've been doing is a 10-minute run followed by a 10-minute elliptical followed by a 10-minute stationary bike. And so it's been able, so like the first 10 minutes of the run gets my heart rate up like very high right now. And then the elliptical is kind of like in the middle. And then the stationary bike is a good like cool down for me, but it's still keeping my heart rate up because after that 10-minute run, my heart rate's still high. And then just immediately jumping on the elliptical like just keeps, even though it's easier, it keeps it up on like a pretty decent level.
I like that.
um and then it's also not killing me, and I'm gonna work my way up. I think over time.
Yeah, I think that's great for conditioning. That'll
Yeah,
build the endurance engine a lot.
yeah.
And
So
you're mostly driving in the cart when you're golfing, right?
I am, yes. Well, you can't walk before like 1 p.m. or something like that
Mhm.
at my course. Well, right now at least.
Okay.
So and right now my schedule is I need to be there at like 9:15. But I did ask, I wanted to start walking and make that a big part of my cardio. But you know what I do? I'll tell you this real quick because I know you got to roll. But if it's cart path only and I get out there and I'm by myself, I am jogging slash running to every single ball because you have to like go from the cart to wherever the ball is, which is usually like the furthest possible point it could be from the cart path.
Of
And
course.
I'll run to there. And the key with golf and any sport really is controlling your heart rate. So I'll get to about 10 feet away from my ball and stop running, and mind you, it's cold too, so this is kind of a hard process. And it's
Right.
actually been getting nice though. And then I focus on getting my heart rate down as fast as possible, like taking deep breaths as I walk up to the ball. Um, I don't know if it helps because I play, sometimes I still get like my nerves get out of control and I can't get them back sometimes when I play.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like it does help my heart rate come down quick, which is the goal in golf is like right before your shot is to be like as calm as possible.
Mhm.
And you'll see that in PGA golf, sometimes they'll show heart rate monitors and stuff, how like the best like their heart rate like just drops like
Really?
right before they swing,
Well, that's
and
cool.
and then they swing, and then the heart rate will go up, which is really super cool to watch.
That's crazy. You can just almost turn it on, turn it off, you know?
I think that's the difference between a lot of the greats and the people who have skill but don't ever get to that level is their ability to handle their nerves.
I didn't know they had like live heart rate monitor readouts while the game was going. That's pretty sweet.
Not all the time, but if something's sponsored by like Whoop or whatever,
Yeah,
they'll have a hole or a couple holes that they'll show the heart rate on.
that's awesome.
It's very cool to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, like that kind of stuff's coming, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
biometric data, in-game biometric data.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. It seems like all the future stuff, to go back to it a little bit, is kind of like kind of like Pandora's box,
Yeah.
right? Like there's all these great things in there, but there's also these scary things in there. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be mostly great, honestly. I'm optimistic overall. But
You should
I like playing pessimistic. Feels like you should play with it a little bit here and there.
you have to test out theories on both sides,
Mhm.
because somewhere in between is going to happen. It's not going to be all gold and it's not going to be all, all crap. But
Right.
like, as long as we are responsible with it, and who's the judge of that, uh, then I think we'll
Me.
be all right.
Me. No. I get the gavel out. Here's
All right, I think that's it.
Alright. Thank you for listening, everybody. I hope that was fun for you as it was for us. And see you later.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Deuces.
Woo.